Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing.
Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 349 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. I hope this finds you being intentional with your time and present when you're with someone you love. All right. Have you ever had a choice to make and your inner guidance system is telling you what's right for you, but maybe someone else wants you to do something different, or maybe it might make someone else comfortable if you do it, even though it does feel right for you? It seems like this is something that I happen upon fairly frequently. Not all the time, but enough to talk about it. But it does seem that we make it harder on ourselves than necessary by getting the input of everyone around us about the choices that we're making. Now, I'm a designer by trade, and design is a huge area where people do this a lot. It's a really good example of how this can make life harder. So I had a sweet client. We had picked everything out for her new kitchen, and dining room renovation was a big one. She loved everything so much and was super excited when I left on that Friday. I mean, we had made lots of decisions that week, and it was so beautiful. Well, the next week, when we got together, she was kind of a wreck. So over the weekend, she had gotten the opinions of her best friend, two of her neighbors, and all of her daughters. Some were totally on board, and some were appalled that we were using wallpaper, because wallpaper's been out for years now, and won't she get tired of it? And that fabric for your drapes, I mean, if your dog rubs on that, won't it be ruined within the year? And that rug, that's going to be uncomfortable on your feet. All of these things. She had gone from being certain, excited, and happy to just a mess. And look, she's a really intelligent, beautiful, active, happy woman. So I just told her, I said, look, for every 3 people you ask, you're going to have 3 different opinions. Now, you're paying me because you've loved what we've done so far, and I'm a professional interior designer. So I asked her, I was like, okay, how did you feel before you got so many opinions? And she said, I loved it. And my husband did too. So I was like, all right, is there anything that you're questioning specifically about the decisions that we made? Because we can certainly change anything you want. We haven't ordered anything. But if we change it and you get everyone else's opinion again, we're going to be right back here where we are right now. You're never going to get 100% agreement. She looked at our board, she looked at every single selection and said, you know what? It just all looks so good together to me. I really don't want to change anything. I was like, okay, then we're ordering it and we're going to call it a day. You're going to love it. You see, she loved it, but was considering changing when someone else didn't. So my husband sent a quote to me the other day that was so powerful, and it really made me think. It said, if it's human nature to prioritize our own well-being over others, why is it then that we tend to care more about what others think about us than what we think about ourselves? So many times we care more about what other people think than what we think. And it causes us discomfort because now we're making decisions for our life based on what they think, which will end up making us more miserable in the long run. I mean, it will eventually build up to resentment and bitterness. But the real rub is we'll only have one person to blame. We all know who that is. I mean, we're the one that either has to stand up for ourselves and be assertive, or just cater to what everyone else wants or what everyone else thinks we should do. Or maybe it's not even everyone else. Maybe it's just one person that we defer to all the time. But see, once we do that a few times, it becomes a habit to default to other people's opinions, to the point to where we don't even trust our own opinion at all anymore. So we're certainly not going to get the things we really want. We just become like a cork on the ocean. I mean, we're at the whim of every single wave. Wherever that wave goes is where we're taking it. It doesn't have a direction of its own. We can let that same thing happen to us. Now, that doesn't lead to a very satisfying life. Now, confession time from me. I'm always confessing. But I'm a recovering people pleaser, okay? I'm extremely aware of other people's opinions and feelings. I do not like for people to be upset or sad or left out or any uncomfortable emotion. I don't like for people to feel bad if I can help it. It's almost like I used to think it was my fault, even though it would have nothing to do with me. I also had a tendency to think it was my job to fix it. So I would have anxiety because I picked up on someone feeling uncomfortable. But uncomfortable feelings are part of life. We miss out on so much in life if we try to avoid them. We end up hiding or playing small with little to no direction that is our own. Now, I noticed, not all the time, but I noticed sometimes I would undermine what I wanted because someone else wanted something different. Or maybe it was going to be uncomfortable to ask for what I really wanted, so I just settled for what I got. I'm working really hard at not doing that anymore. The other day I was shopping with my mom and my big sister, and I bought a few new clothes from one of my favorite stores. And I loved what I bought so much. Now, the girls that worked there were so nice and helpful. It was great. So the very next morning, after that day that I bought all those clothes, I went to check my email, and I saw an email from that very store that everything I bought was now 30% off the regular price. I had paid full price for it. And it totaled up to over $100. I was like, oh my goodness, they didn't even tell me they were having a sale yesterday when I bought this. Maybe they didn't know, right? But I've had people tell me before, hey, this is going on sale tomorrow. But that didn't happen this time. So I thought, okay, I don't want to deal with it. It doesn't matter. I'll just let it go. But that was me trying to avoid an uncomfortable situation of having to go back in the store and ask for a price adjustment. It seemed like a no-brainer to me. Now, I don't know what you think about that, but that's how I felt. So I thought, you know what? I'll just run in there today and ask how to get that price adjustment. I didn't even take the things out of my bag yet. I mean, they were still sitting there with the receipt. And so I take my receipt in and I tell them, hey, I really wanted to do that. And they said, well, we can't do a price adjustment. And I said, okay, I understand. So do I just need to go get the bag and return the clothes and buy them again? And the girl looked at me and she was like, well, technically we can't do that either. So I said, okay, well, that's probably what I'll do, right? So in my mind, I could have easily waited until the next day and just returned it with a different person, or I could do what I really needed to do, and that was go get them and deal with it now. Yeah, it was uncomfortable, but I can do hard things, especially when I feel like it's the right thing for me. I had looked on their store policy online, and it said if it was bought within the last 7 days, then you could request a price adjustment. So that's what I did. And I was extremely uncomfortable doing this, by the way, but I went back home and I got the clothes. I went back in. The same girl was there, and I just said, hey, I brought these back to return them. And she was, bless her heart, really sweet. And she said, okay, I'm going to make an exception this time. Now, both of us knew I could have just easily returned them and bought them again. But I thanked her for that. And I said, you know, it's happened before where I'd worn it, or it was a week later. But since it was less than 24 hours and I still had them in the bag, it was a no-brainer. And she totally agreed. So I was really proud of myself for that. I'm making a habit of standing up for myself. Another thing, just the day after this happened, I was getting my nails done, and I'm particular about how they're done. I don't know about you. If you're a guy, you're probably still getting your nails done, I'm sure. But these girls at where I get my nails done, they like to say I'm boring with my colors. I know I've talked about that before. So my nail girl had picked a color that she thought I would like, and I was doing shellac for the first time. And I'm sure you probably know what that is, but normally I just do a regular manicure. But I'm going out of town for 2 weeks, and a regular manicure is not going to last that long. So she picks a pink color that she says I'm going to love, and she brings me a nail polish and says it's close to this, and I put it on my nail, and I was like, oh yeah, I like it. Let's do it. So I go in and I sit down in her chair, and there's another girl that's doing nails right next to me, and she's done my nails several times and knows how particular I am. So she says, while my nail girl is away getting water, she says, what color are you going with? And I show her, and she said, you're not going to like that color. And I said, well, I put it on my nail right here, and I like it. And I showed the color, and she shook her head and jumps up, and she goes and grabs the actual gel color and quickly swipes my nail with the color, and it's nothing like the color I had on my nail. So she hands me a color, and she says, this is what you need. You'll like that. Just do that color. And I trust her very much because I actually really like the way she's done my nails. So when my nail girl comes back to the table, I said, hey, I'm changing colors. That first color is really different than what you showed me. And she was a little put off. And she said, well, the gel will be a little bit different. It'll be a little darker. And of course, I'm like, well, I'm glad we found that out before we did it. So, okay, we got through that. I'm going to have the color that I like. So off she goes shaping my nails. And I had specifically requested almond shape. So she's shaping away, and just I'm kind of sitting there talking to someone next to me, and the other nail girl says to me, what shape did you want? And I said almond. And she just kind of shook her head under where my nail girl didn't see her. So I look at my hand, and she was obviously shaping them in a round shape, which I do not like at all. Oh my gosh. So now it's uncomfortable because I have already changed the color that she chose, and now I have to make a decision. Am I going to get what I want and have the uncomfortable conversation that she's shaping them wrong, or am I just going to let it be? Well, I'm on a roll of standing up for myself. Why stop now? So I said to her, you're shaping them round, and I asked for almond. Now she's irritated, but she knows I'm right. So she says, you really want that pointy tip? Apparently, she does not like that shape at all. So I said, yes, that's exactly what I want. So back she goes, and she refiles each nail to a beautiful pointy tip. The color's exactly what I hoped for, and so is the shape's perfect. It wasn't the most pleasant manicure I've ever had, but I was very proud when I left that my nails looked exactly how I wanted them, and I had stood up for that. Now, both of these stories in the past, I wouldn't have said anything, and I would have left feeling disappointed and resentful. But even worse, I would be the only person to blame if I let that happen. When I wore those clothes, I would have been annoyed had I not stood up for myself. And let's not even talk about the round, bright pink nails I would have had if I hadn't said something. I know I can't be the only one that this happens to. So my challenge to you this week is, when this happens to you, in whatever scenario it is, stand up for yourself, even if it's uncomfortable. Share this with 3 amazing people who deserve to get what they want. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.